Hi fam, welcome to another episode of the Hobby Collab, our hobby stream. It is a very special episode today. We have two guests. That never happens. We have Devin with us. You guys have met Devin. Amazing painter and wonderful person in our community. And newly joined our community is Michael. And he's another amazing painter. Devin, Michael, I met you guys both at painting events. I think LVO for you, Devin, and Michael, I met you at Kublacon. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about, Kublacon? I want to hear more about Kublacon, and so does our audience.
Okay, cool. So Kublacon is a local convention. It's a local gaming convention. It happens at the end of May every year. What's the holiday? It's the end of May, so...
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. Thanks, Devin. I knew one of you would remember that better than me. So yeah, I and a few others organize the painting events. Our head sort of leader is a woman named Meredith, and she kind of herds all of us cats. And basically, we have a painting competition. We have a big paint and take area where you can come and grab a free model from a sponsor and just sit down and paint it with brushes and paints from sponsors. We have classes. We have a ton of classes that we offer. We have speed paint contests. At the end of the weekend, we have a award ceremony where we give prizes for the competition, and it's just a great time. We say that it's the biggest miniature painting contest on the West Coast because it's the only one, but it is actually quite big.
That
quite
makes it the
too.
biggest.
Right.
Yeah, and you guys are kicking off a new one in the fall, right? We're not
doing
event.
any painting events there.
Okay.
This year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we're actually looking into setting up like an event at this upcoming fall Kublacon. So guys, keep your eyes out for that.
Cool.
I want to talk to you guys. We want to make sure that everyone gets to know you all. So we should talk through your guys' work, your guys' hobby journey. You are both amazing painters, and that can be kind of like, it can be kind of intimidating, right? But everybody has like their growth story. So let's see. Let me turn off one name. This is Devin's work we're starting with. So Devin, I'll control the slides, but can you talk us through your hobby journey?
Yeah, sure. So this is one of my gladiators that I picked up at an event. I thought it was really cool. I'd never really dove into any type of historical stuff, and I wanted to try it out. I would say this is probably my second or maybe my third piece that I painted specifically for a competition. And this was early 2019, probably somewhere around January, February. But my whole journey started where I was at the Las Vegas Open in 2018, and I had really only gone there for gaming. And I had a couple friends. They had to literally corral me to enter into competition. They're like, "Oh, your stuff is really good. It's fine. You'll do something." And at the very last minute, I went to go submit, and I said, "I don't know anything about this. What do I do?" And they looked at my work, and they said, "Okay, well, we're going to put you in Masters."
Wow.
And that scared the hell out of me. And I ended up walking away with a silver. And from then on, I kind of caught the bug and was like, "Oh, this is a thing. This is a thing that you can do." And I really haven't kind of looked back from it. I really enjoy it because I'm a competitive person by nature, but it's a really individualistic, I guess you'd call it maybe sport, but it's so friendly within the hobby and within our community that there's a bunch of overlap, and there's not a lot of people that are being super protective over their secrets or over their work or anything like that. And so it's just a really great way to kind of push each other in the community, and I really, really like it.
Yeah. Did you, so we have, hey Liam, thank you for the 5 Hobby Collab memberships and the party lights. You kind of just dove in, like it sounds like. You did not plan on becoming a competitive painter just sort of happened. Did you have any of the fears that we have listed in our poll? I don't know if you've seen our poll. Guys, like all of our polls, it's very important. Make sure you vote in it. The poll question we have up is, what is most scary about submitting your work to a painting competition? I'm not used to getting feedback, comparing myself to other painters. I don't know what level I'm at, or nothing. I welcome the challenge.
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above.
You were scared?
Like when oh yeah. Like I said, I had to, my friends twisted my arm, and it wasn't like, it was at the very last minute of the due date or the deadline. And I was like, there's no way I'll do anything in comparison to all these amazing painters. I don't even know where to judge it at. And, like, it was this whole constant thing. And one of the things that I've kind of learned, I've chatted with a couple of friends of, is like, being an artist is balancing in equal measure both extreme narcissism and crippling self-doubt. So there's this constant balance that it never really ever goes away. I mean, even entering today, I look at it and I go, well, there's always next year.
Yeah. What about this piece? I love this piece. I love the like rainbow kind of effects you have going on the metal.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So this was actually one of the pieces that I went to the next LVO. This is what I gamed, one of the pieces that I gamed with. So that was 2019. It's a night after post from Forge World. I actually took an airbrushing course where we talked about like airbrush smuggling in colors, and they were putting in like really subtle colors. And I said, well, I want to make this loud. So I put turquoise and purple and and ochres and stuff like that in there. So it's kind of weird and kind of insane, and I love it. And that definitely started off my love for robots and knights and all that kind of jazz.
Michael, have you judged any of these pieces of
I
Devin
don't think
so
so,
far? No? Okay.
No, not so far.
Have you?
Maybe did you bring the Gladiator to Kublacon?
I did. On? Yeah, that was 2019.
I can't remember if I judged that, but I remember seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I might not have been a judge back then.
I don't remember. I remember Matt DiPietro was.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've seen this piece, yeah.
Yeah, I brought it to LVO 2023. This was a COVID lockdown piece. This was just something that I thought was really fun. It's a little bit higher than our normal scale of 32 millimeters. It's a 54 millimeter scale, so it's a little bit bigger. So you get a little bit more chance to just kind of play around and stuff like that. And fun fact, I actually re-sculpted a lot of this and changed the positioning. And that scope, I actually made that scope because it didn't originally have a scope.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like a fun little, exercise to just push myself in a bunch of different ways, which included re-sculpting, included adding on new things, and then just painting an awesome piece, really.
Yeah. Oh, man. I am not a sculptor. I do not green stuff very often unless I have to fix something. Like, how did you dive in? How did you learn how to work with the material to get such nice, I don't know, like sculpting?
Well, so a lot of it is, now I'm not sculpting from scratch. Let me put that out there. I'm definitely not a sculptor by any stretch of the imagination. But really what it is it's just try it. And so what I did with the resculpting on this is I'm changing geometries and angles of things to make them work. And then when you're starting to change things, unfortunately, it's going to create little gaps and bubbles. And so then all you're doing is just putting green stuff using silicone shaping tools. And then a lot, like, honestly, this is going to sound really weird, but this fits for the Hobby Collab, lube.
Yeah. That is
use some of that Astroglide, use a little bit of lube, and it just helps smooth things out and just get it to the point where you're literally just trying to make sure that you're matching whatever material that you're in.
Yeah.
And then once it's hardened, it paints just like normal.
Okay. Lube it is. You heard it here, folks.
Lube. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about this piece.
So again, another COVID piece. This was kind of my evolution from the previous Gladiator piece. I got this as a gift from a buddy of mine, Michael, you know him, David Powell. Actually, you took classes from him too, David Powell.
Sure.
But it was more of a fantastical piece. And again, this was a lot of readjusting, resculpt. The sword was huge, so I like shaved it down, and it was all metal. And I basically applied a bunch of different techniques to make it look a little bit more historically accurate. I had our good friend Wayne 3D print me out the shield and the helmet. Mm-hmm. And then I adjusted a couple other things. I had to shave off and resculpt parts of the things that were a little overly fantasy and stuff. And yeah, it was just like, hey, this is my evolution from the previous Gladiator to like the new one and stuff.
Okay. And then we've seen this one recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my Golden Demon entry.
Yeah.
I actually was really excited that I scored myself a finalist pin for this bad boy. I call it skirt because it's drifting and stuff.
Yeah.
This is one I felt the flow with. I love vehicles. I love weathering. I love telling story through all of that. You know, I'm kind of a hobby pro when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so this was just a very much a labor of love that I happened to have the goal to go to Golden Demon. And one little thing that I like to tell people is, you know, don't try to paint for anyone other than yourself. I've spoken with many people about this piece. Many people say, you know, chances are pretty high that this piece would never even trophy at Golden Demon because the rubric is really insane and strict. And I said, I don't care. I'm painting for me because that's where I'm going to have the most fun. And that's where I'm going to be able to push myself the most. And I'm going to be the most kind of gratified for it. And if I happen to win, awesome. If I don't, it's okay. I did something that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, I love this piece. I love this next one too. This yellow is just so amazing.
So much fun. So much fun. I mean, yellow is one of my favorite colors to paint. It's just so eye-catching. And
it is.
I always like to do a yellow at some point in the cabinet just because I liked it to scream at you. But this was one I did at LVO. Fun fact, I did this in 19 days. I started this on the first of the year, and I finished it on the 19th, and I flew out to Vegas the following day and threw it in the cabinet, and I earned a bronze from it. So maybe if I spent a little bit more time, I would have gotten higher.
I don't know if you guys can see the detail, but there's a ton of fabric detail on this cape. And Devin taught a fabrics workshop in our Discord for mandrels. So if you're a mandrel, you can go find that video and rewatch the workshop so you can get some insight on how to create those types of textures on your fabrics. But yeah, I love this piece so much. Okay, that takes us to Michael.
Can you see what a great painter I am?
Look how cute this is. I love this. All right, let's go through your journey.
Yes, okay. So I've been painting a little bit longer than Devin. I'm a little bit older than Devin too. Basically, my daughter is 20. She's in college, and I started painting when my wife was pregnant with her. So that's kind of a nice round number for you to realize. So this is probably my first year, and this is a Reaper figure. I never painted. I didn't really game much until I was like 30. I gamed in middle school, and then I didn't really game again until I was in grad school. And then all of a sudden I was in grad school. I was just surrounded by nerds.
Yeah.
And we all said, let's play D&D. And we were like, yes. And then for some reason I said, I'm going to paint my character. And I never painted before.
This is your character.
This is you.
This is not my character.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love wizards, so it could be me. Yeah. So yeah, I ordered a Reaper Learn to Paint kit, and it had this little, it was a little like man-at-arms figure with chainmail, and I did all this internet research, and I learned how to do dry brushing and washing, and had this chainmail that was really well, I don't know if it was well sculpted, but it was really well defined, and I did a dry brush of the metal, and then I did a wash, and the wash went into all the crevices, and I was like, wow. cool. This is so awesome. And I was just like hooked from the beginning. And I just loved it, and I've loved it ever since. And I had a much slower burn than Devin. Also, Devin kind of amazes me with the like the speed with which he improved. For me, it was a much slower burn. So this is this is not my fourth miniature. This is from a couple of years ago. So I was just painting, and I was really involved with all the online stuff in like the late 2000s. It was really exploding back then with the internet and everything. I was good. Like I was a good tabletop painter, but I wasn't really that great. And I would go to competitions and kind of like not do that well, especially like online and stuff. And I kind of just said, maybe I'm not going to ever be a world-class painter, but I just love it, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And I just kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and eventually I started getting golds at competitions. So
you were wrong.
That's kind of my little inspirational speech, right? Just like, if you like it, keep doing it. Like Devin said, paint for yourself. Don't focus too much on what other people say. Get feedback and enter the competition, but do it for yourself.
Yeah. Don't take it personal. I love this model so much. I have
Thank you.
one of these. So do you, Devin, right? Weren't we in the same class where we got this piece together?
Oh, nice.
I absolutely love what you've done with the head and the work you did on the axe. Like you painted all that wood grain. It's so nice. Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. Okay, what about this guy? This is a great piece.
Thank you. This was my first one where people were like, Michael, wait a minute, what happened? Like, it was a jump up, right? So I brought this to Kublacon, and I think this was my first gold that I ever got at Kublacon. And so I don't know that much to say about it. I really loved it because I could tell a bit of a story. The name of it, you can see at the bottom, is The Cost of Victory. So the idea that Conan has now, defeated all of his enemies, and now he's the king, and he's like, Jesus. Now I'm the king. What am I gonna who wants to be the king? I just want to be the conqueror, right? And so he's like beat up.
Great.
It was my first time using wounds. I make jokes about how he fell off his bike because his knees are skinned, and So it was the first time that I was pretty comfortable with NMM, and it was the first time that I tried to do. That I was really focusing on the flesh tones and the lighting on the flesh.
Yeah.
You can kind of see between this one and maybe, I don't know if it's next one or the one after, but this was you can kind of see, maybe if you look at this one and then go back to the other one, you can kind of see how the lighting hits the skin. And on the older one, this one, the lighting is like perfectly square across his chest.
Sure.
Which is that's not natural, right? And then when you go to the next one, you can see I'm starting to understand like how the light will hit the body in a way that's a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I totally see that.
It's all a journey.
I know.
Right.
I love how you, when you're talking about your pieces, you talk about the story so much behind your pieces, because that is really like what guides you through your painting is whatever story it is that you're selling, right? And I forget that a lot. I forget to talk about like, what is the story? A lot of times I'm just painting. Like you're in an army, I'm painting you. But when you get to do these competitive pieces, you really sit and think like, well, what is the story that I'm telling? So it's really nice to hear you talk through your story for each piece. Yeah.
This one I added this picture because this was the result of a weekend workshop I did in Berlin with Ben Comets, who's one of probably my main miniature hero. So I was able to go to Berlin and spend a weekend with him some years ago. And so that was also super important in my like evolution. I came out of that kind of a different painter, really. So I really recommend that everybody take advantage of, the convention classes, but also the weekend seminars. Devin and I go to those a lot. We have a few of them in the Bay Area every year. They're super valuable, and they're just a blast. You get to meet all of the local painters, and we're all just trying
Yeah.
to improve ourselves and each other and build each other up, and it's great.
You tend to be able
sorry,
to exchange ideas and all those things too. It's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah, where and when is the next seminar?
I don't think we have anything organized right now.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I would like to know about that. I
Okay.
love this
Yeah, we'll
piece.
keep you in the loop.
Great.
Thank you.
The story here, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, I want to be that girl. This is like
Right.
every girl's like fantasy, right? Like to like pet a dragon or a unicorn or griffin, whatever like made up magical creature. I just freaking love this piece so much.
Thank you so much. I took this to ReaperCon last year. I got gold in diorama and best dark sword, because it's a dark sword dragon, and then I used a dark sword figure. I had to convert the girl a little bit. She was holding like a scroll and a sword,
Okay.
and so I changed her around. So I didn't want her to be holding a weapon, right? And I wanted her to be reaching out. I was looking around for a figure where she was reaching out. So I really like this too. My feedback from ReaperCon was that the painting wasn't really gold level, but the story and execution was so good. It was for the diorama category anyway, so the painting is sort of like less important than the story. So same thing. As Devin, I didn't have a lot of time last year, but I'm really happy with it. I'm not going to change it. I like it too.
Yeah. Oh, this guy.
This is where I went kind of ham with the flesh and the wounds and stuff. This was my best in show from 2017 at Kublacon.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it's called
Great
the Pit
blood
Fighter.
on the sword.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I would do it differently now. But thanks. Yeah, I did a lot. Some of the wounds are sculpted and some of them are not. Like those scars on his hands are not sculpted. So
Okay.
I just had a good time with him.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, how often would you say you go back to a piece that you've done and looked at it and said, like, I want to do this differently, and then actually change it? Or do you kind of just take it forward with you into your next pieces?
Kind of depends on my intention. Sometimes I will bring something to Kublacon, and then the intention is to get feedback, and then I take the same. I institute changes, and then I take it to another convention later, like ReaperCon or somewhere else.
Okay.
So sometimes that's part of the plan.
Yeah. Sometimes it also depends on the relationship you have with the piece. Some pieces you had a lot of fun doing, so you have no problem going back at it. Other pieces you're just like, I just need to be done with it. I'll take that lessons for the next one.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. And last up, this piece from Michael.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite pieces. I'm not sure what to say about this.
Well, I love the fabric, the filigree you have. It looks like it's stitched embroidery, like metallic fibers. It looks great. Yeah, you really sold it.
Those are metallic paints.
Okay.
So I didn't do NMM, I just did metallics, but I did shade and highlight them as if it were NMM. And then the fabric itself is kind of a stipple dry brush mixture, just to get the kind of rough texture. And I was trying to go for like a rough contrast with the smooth skin. So
yeah.
If I can brag a little bit, maybe.
Please. We love that.
So Kevin's gonna roll his eyes, but I actually was approached by Verco's Vault, which I don't know about. I don't know if you know about Verco's Vault, but there's a miniature art museum that's being built in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about this?
Yes. Yeah. I think they had a booth at LVO.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, they're running the LVO hobby stuff next year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they approached me and asked to purchase this for the collection. So I was super.
Amazing.
No kidding.
Awesome.
I was super stoked. Yeah. Just so happy, just like over the moon that they would think that. So, yeah.
Congratulations. See, you can make money off your art, Mom. That's
not a lot, but yeah.
It happens.
Right.
All right, guys, both of Michael's and Devin's Instagrams are linked in our description, so you should definitely go follow them if you aren't already, and you can go see more of their work. And then a quick reminder, there's many ways to support the channel. You being here is one. Thank you for the gifted memberships. I think I might have missed Soups. And then at the start of the stream, we had somebody join, Asimov. Oh, nice, welcome. And yeah, thanks for being members. You can send us a super chat. If you've been a member for a while, you might have a free super chat hanging out. Don't forget to use those up. And we also have an Amazon wish list in our video description for stuff we need around the studio. So we'll keep that updated. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. So I think we want to talk through a few things during this show. One thing that is really important to our community is taking good pictures. We like to show off everybody's work and talk about it, and we offer critiques in the Discord all the time, and that all starts with a great photo. So we have Devin has prepared some tips. You can actually find like the whole sheet with all of his notes in our Discord. A mod will help you find it if you can't find it. But yeah, so we're going to talk through some of these photography tips to hopefully help you guys take better photos so that your stuff appears nicely on our stream. So let's get to it. Here we go. Yeah, so Devin and Michael, feel free to walk through and add color to these slides.
Okay.
So I wrote the whole kind of photography tips with like a regular camera in mind. That being said, there are also a lot of really powerful smartphone cameras that have a lot of similar functions and features, like the ISO. Oh yeah, see right there, we have.
We'll start with smartphone.
Yeah. So you really can use whatever is available. I like using the camera because I happen to have it and it makes sense. But not everybody has a camera, and you can absolutely use a smartphone. But really the main thing that we want to consider is your lighting. You can be a great painter, but if you don't light it correctly and you don't, see right there. If you don't light it correctly, and it's just not going to look good. It doesn't matter how good your paint job is, the photography will fail you. And unfortunately, with the age of social media, that's a big thing. I mean, I know I've struggled with it myself. I'm like, I don't want to do photography. I just want to paint. But unfortunately, you kind of have to learn a little bit about that. So lighting is a really, really important thing. And honestly, you can even use your own hobby lamps. And it's just kind of all about where you're spacing them in relation to the model, if they have dimmers on them, that gives you greater control. You want to be able to control all of those things. You're spending so much time and effort and energy and knowledge into painting these figures, these pieces of art. It's kind of a shame that you don't spend a little bit more time, lighting them properly so that we can actually capture the colors properly. So since we're on lighting, lighting is really, really important. We should ideally be painting with a daylight, which is about 5,000 Kelvin, 5,500. It's slightly warm. It has a little bit of yellow into it and not a whole lot of blue. That is a little bit healthier on our eyes. And also it showcases our colors a lot more kind of true to form, true to life. And anything that is, beyond that, it starts to blow things out. Anything below that, it starts to warm things up so that everything kind of has a yellow hue and tint to it. You can kind of see on this little photo here, we've got some different side lighting. So the way I kind of describe it is that you have your model in the center, your camera's on the opposite end in the center as well. Just a quick little general rule, right? This is meant to be depending upon the piece, but you basically have two lights kind of going at a 45-degree angle pointing at the model. And that way it helps light up the model and it eliminates a lot of cast shadows and things like that.
And
can we go back to ISO?
I will. Yeah, I have questions about the lighting as well.
Yes.
And then I was going to ask Zach, if you're listening, can you bring in one of our little, I can't remember what they're called now, but one of our lights that we use for lighting things around the studio. Okay, let's go to ISO. There we go.
Okay, so with ISO, oftentimes people don't give this as much credit. What it essentially does is it's basically introducing a lot of extra noise and data into the photo frame for low light photography. And if we're controlling our light, like we have our own lamps, we have our own light cubes, whatever it might be, light boxes and stuff, we really want to keep this as low as possible so we can capture the image very, very truly. I recommend not really going much higher than 400 because what happens is when you start to zoom in on that mini, it starts to get real grainy.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, these figures are so small. The moment you start introducing a little bit of grain and kind of compressed pixels, it just starts looking like crap. So keeping it at 100 and just kind of adjusting from there, and adjusting things like your shutter speed and your aperture before you do your ISO is going to give you much better results, and you'll have a much better time with it too because things will be presented better.
Right. Yeah, I remember learning this in college. Basically, the higher your ISO, the more grain the film has in order to pick up more light and more detail. So the trade-off is you have more light, so what you're looking at is more visible, but yeah, you have a ton of grain. We actually use we keep our ISO pretty high when we're running the streams. You're not zooming into our faces. You don't need that kind of same like crisp quality. We need it to be bright enough for you to see what we're doing, right? But when we're taking these close-up shots of the minis, yeah, we definitely turn our ISO down as low as we can.
Yeah, exactly. And it does depend on the environment. It depends on what you're trying to achieve too.
Yeah. Zach found the Ulanzi light that I was talking about. It was literally in the room with me and I didn't see it. But we use these a lot. These, Zach, can you let people know, like, how much do we spend on these? I don't think they're very expensive. But this is a Ulanzi light. It has different settings on it. And one of the settings is, let's see. One of the settings is, yeah, just let you cast a light and you pick the temperature of it. So this is exactly what you need.
My light setup, I use these little lume cubes. I have a few of these. I like them because they're really, really small. I put them on a couple tripods. I can adjust the brightness, the temperature and stuff, and pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. And then these come with a nice little tripod too. So that's helpful. What do you use, Michael? Anything special? Anything in particular?
I use desk lamps with a daylight bulb, and then I cover them with parchment and, just tape a piece of parchment on them so that there's not a lot of glare. And I just position them, like Devin was saying, 45 degrees. Yeah. And then I usually use a black background for like the infinite black sort of effect.
Yeah. I was going to ask, do you guys prefer a white background or black background for photos?
I prefer black, I think. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Some people don't like a black background because they say that it's easy to hide mistakes and stuff with a black background.
Which is true. I'll submit. I agree.
Yeah.
I used to use exclusively a black backdrop. And what I noticed is that it would, I wouldn't say it would necessarily hide all of my mistakes, but it basically brought certain things to the surface that I didn't want. So I've switched over to like kind of a neutral gray, and I've just noticed that everything is just a little bit more crisp. It's a little bit more forgiving than a white background, but it's a little tougher than a black background. So I feel like I get a little bit of the best of both worlds with that. But the main thing is that you have a background, whether it's black, white, gray, that is flat. There's no extra detail in it or texture or anything like that, because then the camera's going to pick that up. It might focus, and you'll just have a huge problem.
Yeah. Really quickly before we move off of this slide, this is it's like a keynote. I see gel filter, and
So
what is that? Yeah.
okay, so I pulled that off of a photography website. So
Sure.
a gel filter is it's literally just a thing that you can use to either cover over top the light, over top the camera lens, or even behind to add a little splash of color without adding light, like colored
Okay.
light into your scene. So you can ignore the gel filter. I mean, you can use gel filters for like fun little, kind of experimental shots or whatever. But with the advent of, these little cubes that have, you could, with the LEDs or the RGB, I mean, and you can add little extra flavor and color and things like that. It's not completely necessary. Then in this, you see that it says the black cardboard. So what that's essentially doing is you've got a large space of light and you're literally just blocking it off. So it almost becomes like a narrow spotlight.
Okay.
So that's a thing that you can do. And then on the left-hand side is a fill light. Basically you have a spotlight that's center focusing on, whatever it is you're trying to photograph. And then the fill light is just removing all of the shadows and then adding like environmental light in the room. None of those are necessarily needed for the mini photography, but you can kind of play around with a bunch of different things with it. You can adjust the positioning of them. You can cover some. I mean, you don't even have to cover it with black cardboard. You can even cover it with like a blue or a red film on it, and so now you get that extra little light, color of light instead of utilizing one of these.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, I usually do fill light when I take photos of everything, but I haven't played around with like the spotlight, so I'll try that out next. It sounds like it kind of helps tell the story of your photo. Of
Sure.
Journey. Like it's useful for that. Yeah.
It also helps really direct your focus and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so f-stop or aperture. For the longest time, a lot of people, I struggled with it. A lot of people struggle with this because the numbers don't make as much sense until you actually kind of see it, right?
Yeah.
So
like the bigger the number gets, the smaller your aperture. It's a little
right. Yeah, it's a little odd. And think of it as your eyes dilating, though.
Yeah.
So you want when your eyes
literally
dilate,
a pupil. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to get as much light in as possible with a larger aperture, which is a f-stop of 18, 22, 25. That is letting a lot of light in. If we narrow it down and we shrink the pupil, really, we're going to let less light in. In general, for mini photography, we want to have it closer towards the larger opening. So I like starting at around f18 on a camera. Yeah, I kind of like to start there, and then every miniature is different, so I shift and I change it. But I usually start in there because what happens when you close the aperture down so much is you're getting less light, and then you're getting a big, deep depth of field. And what that does is a technical term it's called bokeh. It puts a focus in on a specific area, and then everything else is blurred. It's gorgeous for portraiture.
Yeah.
It's really not, unless you're going for specific things, it's really not the most useful in mini photography because we want to see all of the detail. Yeah. I mean, unless you're going for like a hyper focus on a very specific spot, let everything else go because you did, really good on like the scarring or the face or whatever. Otherwise, you want to have as much of that shallow depth of field so that you can get more detail kind of let in,
Yeah, makes sense. We talked ISO, we talked smartphone. Okay, I think all we have left to talk about is shutter speed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shutter speed is just basically how fast you blink. Really, really easy.
Yeah.
And they're measured in seconds. And if you see a 1 and then a slash followed by a number, that is 1/100th or 1/1000th of a second. It's a very quick shutter speed.
Yeah. I've always learned that you
very
don't
little
want to
light in because it's very, very quick.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think I talked over you.
That's okay.
No, I was just gonna say,
So
what I learned was that you don't want to be. It's funny. I love the delay. It's great. Any lower than like 1/60th, 1/160th.
yeah, because especially if you're holding it with your hand,
Yeah.
that's where you start to feel that subtle little motion at that particular speed, and you'll start to see a little bit of a blurring. So if you start dropping below, I usually say the safe zone 1/100th or 1/125th.
Yeah.
You should probably stabilize it with a tripod.
Yeah. Yeah. We do need to get. Actually, we do have a tripod. I don't usually use it, but I don't have one for my phone. Do you have a tripod you recommend for the phone, or are they all pretty much the same?
Honestly, I wouldn't get a phone tripod. I would get a camera tripod and then buy a little widget to attach to the
Okay.
tripod. They're
Okay.
far more beefy and stable, and you have a lot more options with them. So I have a Sunpack one that it can go up to about almost 5 feet tall for the extensions
Oh.
on it. You can pivot and twist and go up and down and rotate 360 degrees. And if you're wanting to use one of those, just buy a little attachment for your phone, and then you can stick your phone on there. And that way, now you have, rather than trying to manually adjust the phone constantly, you keep the phone locked in, and then you're slightly adjusting the actual tripod with the little arm. So like, I have it right here. You can kind of see there's like this little arm. This is where you then control. You twist, you can go up and down, and then you twist right over on this side right here, and then you can pivot to the left and right. It gives you a far greater control than if you were to just sit there and constantly move the phone around and stuff.
Right. Okay. That's a good tip. Cool. I think we went through everything. Guys, if you have any questions, please yell them out in chat and we can try and get to them. But yeah, I think this was all really good, helpful advice. Hopefully it helps you guys take better pictures. Go for it.
Can we stay here for just a second?
Yeah, let's do that.
So one of the things, I have a hard time taking photos with my smartphone.
Same.
I personally think my camera on my phone, there might be something wrong with it. So this little thing right here, it's different on every phone, but that's like your focus box.
Right.
And then you can see the little sun thing. That's really important to do. You don't just snap a photo, because while our phones are fantastic at just like auto leveling everything to get a decent photo on the go, not as great under a controlled setting, and that you do kind of need to play around with it. And I go a little bit more in depth in the guide, and that there's different options and settings that you can kind of go through. But changing the exposure on the fly right here by tapping the screen and then lowering or raising up that little sun will help you get good results relatively quickly, and it doesn't blow your photo out and stuff. But that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I did not even know about this setting. Like, I don't know anything about my phone. It's ridiculous. So when you pointed this out, I was like, oh my God, this helps so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It makes it far less frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Michael, what do you usually use? Yeah, go for it.
I say that my iPhone takes great pictures until I get near a miniature, and then it just takes terrible pictures. Yeah. So I don't even bother with the iPhone. I mean, I use the iPhone for work in progress, and actually it's actually okay. But anytime I get like with a nice background and lighting, I just can't get the phone to work. So I have a DSLR camera, and it wasn't expensive. I got it used for like $200, I think $250.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's the best thing.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. It's a little less accessible to get your hands on an SLR, but if you can, they're great. $200 for an SLR camera is not bad. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't need to get the latest and greatest one with all of the high-end technology. I mean, you can find stuff on something like Facebook Marketplace where someone's selling their old camera, and if it's all it is dedicated to taking mini photos, it's not that big of a deal,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Do
don't have to
you?
play with the settings every time you use it. It's already
Right.
set. You know, you have your background. Just put your figure there, click the button.
Yeah. I was going to ask one more thing. Do you? I can't remember. It'll come to me at a weird time when we're on some other subject.
Right.
Of
Yeah,
course.
always. Yeah. Cool. Anything else we want to share about photography
The
before we
last
move
thing
on? Yeah.
about the photography is just it's something that you have to play with. It's like, learning non-metallic metal for the first time, or learning object source lighting, or whatever. Like anything in this hobby, it's all about repetition. It's all about practice. It's trying. You may go through and say, oh, well, I have a camera and I've got some lighting and stuff, and find that the settings that I recommended as where I start with don't work for you. That's okay. That's totally fine. I know people who, they literally put t-shirts over their lamp and take some fantastic photos with their iPhone. I can't do that. It's like beyond me.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all general guidelines to start with. You can absolutely veer off. I just want to kind of give people a good starting point,
Yeah.
And I also think it can be really overwhelming sometimes, because just in the camera with there's the shutter speed and the ISO and the this and the that and the background, it's kind of a lot of variables. And so just spend some time, do some research on YouTube. You can reach out to Devin with advice. Get people who know and pick their brain. And it's the usual way that we learn things, right? So if it feels overwhelming, that's normal. And just, try to,
Yeah.
like minimize the options that you have and get someone who can help you.
Yeah. I remembered what I was going to ask. Good job, Meg. I was going to ask you do you guys use wide angle lenses for your photography at all, or just standard,
Just standard
SLR
for me.
lens? Yeah. Okay.
Just standard. I've found with the wide angle lenses is that it tends to do a lot of distortion.
Okay.
And if you want to get rid of that distortion, then you got to post process, go through Photoshop, take out the aberrations and things like that. And I want to get it done because it's not a fun part of the hobby for me. I want to get it in, get it out, and be on to painting. So
Yeah.
I typically don't. I've had people use macro lenses, and those wide angle macro lenses work great for what they want, but it's not something that I'm really super interested in doing.
Sure. Okay. Figured I'd ask. We don't have a wide angle
It's a good question.
lens. Yeah. And I'm curious if anyone in the community does it that way. But yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for all the tips. We're gonna take a break from all this learning, and we're gonna play some silly game because
Hell yeah.
I like doing that. I like doing that to my guests. So we're gonna have a quiz. We're gonna talk about other types of competitions and judging at them. So I did not come up with this list. This is all Zach. So if you have questions about what these are, you're going to have to ask him. I don't know anything about this. I'm kind of surprised that these exist. Yeah. Competitive mobile phone throwing. Have you guys heard of this? Because I haven't.
Wait, this is a real thing?
These are real. Like, these are real things. I'm not making this up. Yeah. I mean, Zach wasn't making them up. I'm assuming. I trust him. But he
didn't anyway.
He went out of his way to find weird things for us to consider. So, yeah, this is a real thing, mobile phone throwing. And 2 out of 3 of these are real things that this is judged on. 1 is not real. And so you guys just have to find the one that is not a real judging criteria.
Going back to Sesame Street, one of these things doesn't belong.
Exactly.
Right. Yes. I'm going to guess it's the brand of phone.
Yeah, same here.
You can sort of set up, distance is judgeable, and then technique you can have like a rubric, but brand of phone, unless you hate one brand of phone, which many people do, you might give more points for that brand that you hate, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, it seems kind of set up for bias. Like if you're like an Apple fanboy, of course the iPhone's going to get more points. Yeah. We can't have that.
I was
Okay,
thinking of the
let's-
opposite. Like, if you
Yeah.
hate Apple, then you like it when the apple gets thrown more.
Oh, that's true.
Ah.
Oh, you're right. Oh.
So, yeah, lots of
All right.
options. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You're right. I don't know why the slides are funky like that. I must have screwed something up. But anyway, you're right.
like
It
it,
is brand of phone. That is not criteria. Maybe it should be. All right. The groomed mustache at the National Beard and Mustache Championship. This is real, and apparently it's a real championship.
Nice.
It seems, I don't know, like how little, like very subjective type of
Right.
competition.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking, because you're like, you spend years growing your mustache. I'm sure you'd be proud of it, and then someone else is like, nope, your overall appearance
Yeah.
is terrible.
Well,
Exactly.
that sounds just like miniature painting to me. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
but you can't
This is someone's
like.
face.
It's like, this is what you're growing out of your body. It's not
I
a thing
made
you
this
painted.
for you. Yeah, so which is it, guys? What's not a
Evan, you can
real
go first since I
criteria?
went first last time.
This one's way tougher. I would think sheen, because I think that is a little bit more of a preference for your hair. I don't know. When I comb and do my hair, I prefer it to look a little less glossy. I want it to look a little bit more matte. Some people, I don't know.
You
I
give
don't
it a
know.
good matte varnish.
Yeah. Give that ultra matte.
But
have
I
to say,
mean, okay, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I grew up in the 70s, and so only a certain type of person in the 70s wore a mustache, and they were usually really creepy. So this whole thing about mustaches nowadays, sorry, it's hard for me to really get behind it. But anyway, that's just a general thing.
Oh, that. You're like, you fail because you have one.
Yeah.
Right. Symmetry seems, just to go sort of nerd deep on this, symmetry seems like something that, you can judge, and overall appearance is definitely subjective. But I don't think that's the reason to take that out of the sorry, I'm losing my words here. Anyway, I agree with Devin. I think it's she.
You think it's sheen? I feel like symmetry, like that is a personal choice. Like, what if you're doing like expressive mustache, and you want it to be asymmetrical for like stylistic purposes?
Yeah, maybe they have a category for the expressive mustache category.
Asymmetric categories. I'm thinking of like the IPMS shows. So that's the International Plastic Modeler Society, where it's like airplanes and tanks and stuff like this. And symmetry is huge. Basically, that's almost all they judge, is like how well the model is built. So anyway, that's my thinking about symmetry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's sheen.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I can see sheen like being a valid criteria, because to me, like sheen is like health, like hair health. Like if your hair is
Sure.
nice and shiny, it usually means it's healthy, right? It looks healthy. So I'm kind of surprised that one's not
But
real.
it also could be if they just ate a really juicy burger. So
True. Different kind of sheen. Oh, that's so gross.
this is what I think about when I think about hair.
Yeah,
hair. Sorry,
it's true. I know. I'm kind of like that with nose rings. I'm like, what happens when you sneeze? All right, last one. Extreme ironing, which is apparently real.
All right. If extreme ironing doesn't include throwing a hot iron at your competitors, I don't want any part of it.
That's horrible. That's so Home Alone. So is it the quality of the ironed garment, technique, creativity, or choice of location?
You got me at a loss on this whole thing, but I'm going to probably say choice of location because I don't know. I don't have any reasoning.
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped too, because because quality of the garment is important, because some things are easier to damage than others, right? Technique, creativity seems like that's something that should be judged, and then choice of location. If it's extreme, I think you'd get extra points for ironing as you're skydiving or something. So
Oh my gosh.
um, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess I will take. I'll just so we don't always have the same answer. I'll take number one, quality of iron garment.
Okay. I think, yeah. So I was kind of perplexed by this as well. Technique, creativity, like I would assume everyone irons the same way. Like I don't even know how you would iron creatively. Like it makes no sense to me. And then choice of location, I like in my head I was like, well, aren't they all in the same place competing? Like I don't quite understand that option, but yeah, that one's wrong.
Choice of location. There we go.
Yeah.
I'd
Oh
like
my
to
gosh.
argue that we should institute that. And I mean, if it's really extreme, then, next to a volcano would be good, or in the rain, or, that's
Yeah.
In a shark cage,
right.
Things like
Yeah.
that.
Underwater. It makes no sense. Oh my gosh, you guys. All right. Well, that was our quiz. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I hope you enjoyed learning about some of these other weird.
I'm going to check into that. Yeah.
Like, which one would you most want to judge out of those three? I don't know.
To judge?
Yeah, because you guys are judges. So which one of those three
We like
seems
to judge
most
everything,
interesting?
right?
Yeah.
iPhone throwing or cell phone throwing would be fun to
I would
at least
absolutely love that, because it doesn't sound like anybody like, oh, you just throw it.
Yeah.
I would like to see what people are actually doing. I think the mustache and beard thing sounds cool, but then you're getting up in someone's grill and you're just like examining. I don't know.
I wouldn't want to do that either. Yeah. Gross. All right. Well, now we're going to get to what everybody has been wanting, which is critiquing. We asked folks in our Discord to submit pieces that they would like to get judged live on air and according to a couple of different rubrics. So we have, we'll go through what the rubrics are for each category. There's typically, actually, Michael, I'll let you talk through this. What is
Okay.
Talk through the categories that we usually see at a painting event. We can use
Okay.
Kubla. Yeah.
So first of all, we do an open judging system, which is different from sort of the traditional system. It's pretty common nowadays, though. And basically, you enter a piece, and then you get judged according to criteria, not according to your other, your friends who you entered with or against. So what I'm saying is that everybody who sort of achieves silver level gets a silver award. And everybody who gets gold gets gold. And there could be a lot of golds or a lot of silvers or no golds at all. Just depends on the rubric and the judges and how they sort of interpret the rubric. So that's the first thing. That's what Kublacon does. And most competitions do this now, except for Golden Demons is like one standout, I think. But other than that, it's pretty common. And then in terms of categories at Kublacon, we have kids, journeyman, and masters. And so kids kind of is self-explanatory. Really, the goal of the kids sort of category is just to encourage kids to...
Oh no, we lost Michael. There we go. Okay. You're back.
Back. Okay. And then journeyman is kind of like for tabletop figures and higher, like basically. Yeah, I don't know, Devin, if you want to say anything more about that.
I think of journeyman as, I think it's like, I don't know where in my skill level, and this is my way to kind of test it out, right? And
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's probably also the most like friendly. It's meant to be very encouraging, and it's not meant to dissuade anyone from entering future competitions.
Right. So what I tell the judges for the Journeyman competition is that you start looking at a figure and you assume it's going to be a silver. And then if there are some problems that bring it down to bronze, then you'll get a bronze. And if there are some things that make it better than silver level, then it'll get a gold. So it's pretty forgiving in that sense. Yeah, I was thinking about something else too, but it slipped my mind just now. So
Sure.
yes.
I'm going to end our poll. What is most scary about submitting your work to a painting competition? It looks like most folks are worried about comparing themselves to other painters. So what's nice about this open judging is you don't have to do that. You will get what you deserve based on how you did.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. So let's get to that. Let's get to our critiques. We're going to actually start off with
we haven't talked about masters yet.
Oh, we haven't. We will get to masters. Yeah. But
Do you want
yeah,
to talk about masters later?
Let's go.
Sounds
we can
good.
talk through it a little bit if you'd like.
But either way, just masters is the intent is to be much tougher, right? I mean, to get a gold in masters is like a huge achievement. At last Kublacon, we had 4 or 5 gold awards. And I think we had 4 or 5 certificates, which means not even bronze, right? And so, yeah, the intent is that, it's a lot more focused. We're talking about a lot more detail. I think it's better to maybe look at the rubrics when we talk about that.
Sure.
But yeah, even a bronze in masters is like an achievement, to be honest. So everybody basically should be proud of whatever they get in a masters category. So
because those competitions can be super tough from show to show. The different levels of like bronze, silver, gold can kind of vary depending upon the talent pool, on the judges. So a bronze in LVO may not necessarily be a bronze in Kublacon, which may not necessarily be a bronze in Reaper. It's just kind of a starting point.
Yeah, that's fair. Right, like when I take stuff to LVO, I imagine that to be way tougher competitively than almost any other convention I go to because it's just the biggest and it has such a big draw of people. Yeah,
for sure. Well, you'll see at Nova this year, the competition is going to be quite insane.
Yeah, Nova's another big scary one, but I'm ready. I'm gonna take actually my Amalthea, which is what we're gonna start with because we did want to talk a little bit about the piece that I submitted to Kublacon this year. You guys who have been watching for a while know that I painted this. I think I started it maybe late November, December, and finished it up in January just in time for for LVO. I took it to LVO and it was DQ'd because it was not finished. And that's worth pointing out. Let's see, the back, you can kind of see in the camera, the back was not black. Like I hadn't done that part yet. And so it didn't get judged. Which was, it is what it is. Worth pointing out, folks that submitted pieces that were not finished, we did not include them in today's critique. That is what happens. If your piece isn't finished, it gets, it doesn't get critiqued. And so that was a lesson that I had to learn at LVO the hard way. So I took it to Kublacon and I entered it in Journeyman and had some good feedback from you guys. What was your take on this piece?
Well, actually, this piece is the reason why I approached you about doing this one episode, because you're at a really exciting moment in your career right now because you got a gold in Journeyman here, and the judges all said next year you should enter in Masters, right? So that's a really intense moment and exciting moment for any painter. So congratulations on that. I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I was actually one of the judges. One of the things that we did is we surveyed everything and we looked for any pieces that stuck out that was an automatic gold. And yours was one of 2. and we all agree, while there are some minor issues here and there, you can see the overall growth, talents, and idea and the story of the whole thing. And we felt as though that from now on you need to be entering into Masters at Kublacon. Now that doesn't guarantee that you're going to win anything in Masters,
Sure.
but that you have the talent and the capabilities to compete that way.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I know. And I was like, well, I wish they had just put it in Masters for me. Because when I entered it, I was like Journeyman. And the person at the desk was like, are you sure? You sure you don't want to do Masters? And I was like, I want to get an award. Like, I don't know if this will get anything if it's in Masters. Like, I really don't know. I don't have I did not have a good sense of where I was at. And so I was like, I'm going to pick Journeyman because it's safe. I think it'll do okay there. And like, it did.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so next time, yeah, I'll throw my stuff into the scary category. But
Yeah.
Right. And the advice I give, I'm not sure I would give this to you specifically, but if you're unsure, put one in Masters and put one in Journeyman. That's totally
True.
fine.
If you're allowed. Some
Some don't allow that. At Kublacon, you can.
Yeah.
okay.
If you put something in Journeyman, everything has to go in Journeyman. So some competitions change that a little bit here and there. The other thing is talk with the people who are taking in the pieces, and they can give you some advice.
Yeah.
Right.
Next time. I mean, now I have you, so I'll just bug you.
Yeah.
Really quickly before we get on to the rubric and then the critiquing for Journeyman, Molecule, thank you for your super chat. How did you do in the painting comp? I was escorted from the building. Classic Molecule. So you just heard how I did. I got a gold for in the Journeyman category. I don't know how it would have done in Masters. We'll never know. But yeah, I'll be submitting pieces to the Masters category from now on so that I don't, miss that opportunity at Kublacon.
I don't think it's too weird for me to say that, I'm the head judge of Masters, and it probably would have been between bronze and silver.
Oh, wow. That's cool to know.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
I'm claiming it. All right. So typically when you are submitting your work to a painting competition, you choose the category for yourself. That didn't really happen. I put out a call for that, but you guys didn't do it. So we decided to categorize you where it seemed like the best place to put you. So we're going to start with Journeyman, and this is the rubric. I don't know if we don't have to talk through the whole thing, but if there's anything you want to highlight before we move on to the pieces, folks at home, take a screenshot so you can have this as a reference as we're talking through the upcoming pieces.
Yes. I'm kind of it's a little bit, I'm looking on a different screen also. Maybe I will look at the piece on my phone just because there's a lot going on the screen here. That's okay. So talking about the rubric.
Yeah, anything that we want to just highlight really quickly before we move on. Otherwise, we can just start talking through the pieces.
Okay. So the criteria are on the left side there. There's workmanship, technical skills, brush control, advanced painting techniques, and then extras and presentation. Extras and presentation is about the base. And so, like, if you notice, to get a silver in Journeyman at Kublacon, you need to have a base, and it needs to be, sort of appropriate for the figures. What it says there, it has to have a good base, a well done base. It doesn't have to be super artistic for a silver, but there has to be, you can't just enter a bare base. That might get you sort of a certificate level in the presentation category there. What happens when we use these rubrics is we kind of decide for each category which one it'll be. So workmanship might be a silver, and then technical skills might be a bronze, and then advanced painting techniques might be a silver, and extras presentation might be a bronze. And then the judges sort of decide, okay, there are some that are silver level, some that are bronze level. What do we think? So if it's like 3 and 1, 3 silver and 1 bronze, it'll probably get a silver, unless the bronze
bronze is
sort
so
of
bad.
problems are really egregious. That's not
Right.
a nice way to say it, but yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And like I
All right.
said, for like we go in thinking that most things are going to be a silver.
Got it. All right, let's jump in. Who is first? You guys asked for this. Chef, this is Broken Chef. He's been working on this guy for a while. He put in a lot of work into the skin, I know. So let him have it.
Okay. I am going to look at the image on my phone because it's a little, I can zoom and stuff. You want to go first, Devin, while I'm figuring this out?
Sure. Yeah. So the first thing that I noticed is the paint control is pretty good. You have a good kind of like separation of all the different elements, and everything is well realized. So you can see the difference between the material of the cannon, the little rope thing, that fuse, really cool, and as well as the skin and trousers. One bit of improvement that I could say is that the overall skin is pretty monotone, and we'd like to see a little bit more variation in the shading and in the coloring. Um, I really like the OSL for the actual wick itself. I think that's pretty well realized, and it tells a really fun and interesting story. And yeah, that's kind of like the feedback that I have.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so let's see. I'm looking at the different photos here. I noticed that there's a mold line on the edge of the gun. So watch out for that. I don't know if you can see it. That the one larger image there, you can see there's a mold line there. That's not enough to kill your figure in Journeyman, but it might keep you, like you probably won't get gold in presentation because of that. Yeah, one kind of the advice that I always give people is to take a picture of your figure. This is kind of a trick that I tell a lot of people. Devin does this too, I know. Take a picture of your figure and then go and edit it and then dial down the saturation to the point where it's a black and white photo. And you can really see if the lighting is the effect that you want. Because it's sometimes complicated or confusing when you have different colors, because one color, because we have different kinds of contrast, right? There's color contrast, but there's also value contrast, which is lights and shadows. And so by dialing down the saturation so that you just have a black and white photo, you can see what's lighter than other things. And generally the areas that you want to draw the eye to should be lighter. So yeah, I think maybe we could do this and I could post it in the Discord or something.
Sure.
In that same thread.
Okay.
Yeah, but it does seem to me that in terms of value, it's all kind of this similar color. The cannon definitely has a higher value, and that's good. You want the cannon, that's like a point of interest. You want the cannon to be very bright, but also I think the face could use a lot more highlighting.
Maybe some bounce back light from the flame or something.
Right.
Also.
I think you have some on the edge there that Devin mentioned. I mean, on the side, that side shot there. One thing to remember about OSL also is that it's light. It's not only color. So you want to brighten those areas where the light is hitting also. I don't know. Do you want to? Are we supposed to give it a gold, silver, bronze, or
I think
are
we should.
To...
Let's really just like let them have it, unless you don't want to.
Devin was the judge for Journeyman.
All right, Devin, what's the verdict?
Okay, so
we can decide together. It doesn't have to just be. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, my overall thing is I would probably put it at a bronze. And I think the main detracting points from pushing it further up is the basing itself needs a little bit more color variation, maybe darken certain things down, brighten certain things up, as well as calling a little more attention to the face. Once you
Right.
brighten up the face, you do a little bit more color variation on the base and just continually work and improve. I don't see why this couldn't develop into a silver.
Right. I would say it's between a silver and bronze. I would probably fall on the bronze, but there are some nice things about it that would bring it up to a silver also. But notice that the base is kind of brighter in value and color than the face.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that, right, something you kind of want to avoid. The base should kind of be like the frame of a picture or like a background of a picture almost. You don't want too much attention to go to the base. You want the attention to go to the face and usually the hands or weapons. Those are like the three things that you want the attention to go to first.
Okay, cool. Nice job, Chef. We're gonna move on. This is Soy Sumer. This is Soy Sumer's Stormcast Eternal model. Have at it.
I'm looking on my phone here.
Yeah, same here.
I really enjoy this banner so much. I'm just gonna kind of like gush over it first while you guys prep your tearing into it. But yeah, I enjoy the banner a lot. I think the color choices are so nice on this model. It's very eye-catching and vibrant. Yeah. Nice.
Soy did a really good job on the banner.
Banner's great.
Following all the different folds. So as it kind of folds back, it gets a little bit darker, and as it folds forward, it gets a lot brighter. I think that adds to a lot of intrigue and interest, and it also helps kind of frame the mini a little bit, because now the mini itself is right in between two brighter points where the flag is billowing. I really like the attempt on the NMM. I think overall, everything looks pretty neat and tidy.
Right.
I think that the base doesn't detract from anything.
Right.
And I can see that you're trying to attempt all of these different more complex shapes with the blending and the highlighting and everything like that. And I think that's overall looking pretty solid.
Right.
One of the things that I would say is just further practicing on your blending. And then, especially with NMM, you want to kind of start your highlights bigger than what you might think, because then you get these really tight, tiny lines, and then the things don't look quite right. So if you start them a little bit bigger, and then as you blend them, like kind of down into the midtones or into the shadows, the volumes and the actual shapes will end up being a little bit bigger, and things a little more natural, a little more homogeneous.
Yes. I think some things are really great. Obviously, the banner is really great. I really like the use of yellow and sort of gold here. It kind of frames the whole figure. We have the banner, then we have the fire, and we have the gold on the armor and the head, right? So it kind of makes a nice, like compositionally, that's a nice choice. Great job on the fire. A lot of people make mistakes on the fire where they put the higher, brighter element on the end of the flame, but that's not correct. You did it correctly where the base of the fire, where it's the hottest, is the brightest. So that's really good, I think. I think the gold NMM is pretty good, actually. It's it could be that the sort of steel armor is not meant to be metal, but I think you really get the metallic feel for the gold one. I agree. that some of the blending could be a little bit better. But blending on MMM is kind of becoming less and less important in competition nowadays. A lot of people are saying that non-metallic metal doesn't need to be perfectly blended because the lights and darks don't blend into each other on metallic surfaces anyway. So it's kind of something that's changing more nowadays. Yeah, so I agree that if the sort of silver or, iron or whatever metal is supposed to be metallic, then it should have higher highlights and probably deeper shadows.
For sure.
But
Contrast.
the gold actually looks pretty good to me. Yeah, so maybe I'll go first on this one, Devin, so you don't always have to, unless you always want to go first. It doesn't bother me.
That's fine.
This would be a high silver, I think, for me. It's close to gold in Journeyman.
Yeah, I put it at a mid to high silver.
Mhm.
There's definitely some room for improvement, and I wouldn't quite put it into gold, but I think a few more hours of touching things and refining things, I could
Right.
very well see it pushing that up to a gold.
Right. Some things you could do for gold is to show the OSL on the flames. So show that it's brighter around where the flames are on his skirt there, and on the scale on his below his waist there. Bring up your highlights on the metallics, especially the gray metallics. And maybe a little, like the metal on the sort of the pole is all kind of one color, so you can improve your metallics on there. For me also, it's easier to paint gold metallics. I get it, actually. It's much harder to do like silver or steel non-metallics. But I think it's a really good job.
Nice work, Soy. All right, we're going to move on really quickly. Molecule, thank you for your super chat. Look at banner, Michael.
Woo! Nice banner.
I know that's from Arrested Development, but I couldn't tell you when. It's from
Okay, yeah, I
Arrested
haven't seen that show.
Development,
So.
All right, next
How
up.
are we doing on the amount of time we're giving to each piece? Are we going too slow?
Definitely not too slow.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, not too fast. Yeah. No, I don't think we're going
okay.
too slow. I think maybe a few minutes per model is good, but we're fine. Yeah. This is Super Slug. This is an orky guy from Super Slug. And this is probably a Super Slug. I'm not as familiar with you. Maybe you're new to our community, which is great. I'm glad to see you posting. So it's nice to have
Welcome.
something from you in this critique session.
I'm new too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first things that jump out to me is I love the green.
Yeah.
The green of the skin where you kind of have that, nice transition into that kind of lemony yellow green. I think it really helps reinforce and push your focus to where it needs to go. I really, really like all the consistency on your metals. I'm a big fan of kind of weathered and scratches and stuff like that. So I like that you have that all throughout. One detracting point is the base needs a little bit of love.
Right.
It's a little monotone, and it looks like it's a gaming piece, and that could be totally fine. So going forward for something a little bit more, high execution, you definitely want to add a little bit of variation on the base, the colors and stuff. I also think that the smoke grenade, I think, is really cool. I think it needs a little bit more color variation. I'd add maybe some deeper, darker shadows, and then maybe do a little bit of dry brushes towards the source, and it's a little bit brighter here and there. I love, if you zoom in on the knuckles, the fact that you did that kind of like red transparency kind of thing that ties in with the lips and the face. It's a really, really good job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the knuckles are well done. The skin in general is really great. Yeah, I agree about the base and the smoke. The smoke looks like it hasn't been painted. But The green is really great, I have to say. The face is really good. The face is really the most important part of any figure. Um, it's going to draw the eye the most, and so you want to help the eye go there. And he did really well on the face there. If you notice, there's a little bit of color composition going on with the face, where he has some reds in the mouth, but then it's surrounded by the green of the face. So it's good. I really like those kind of bracelets that he has. I don't know if it almost looks like, what's the person's name again?
Super Slug.
Super Slug. It almost looks like Super, like wound some like tiny chain around his wrists.
Yeah, it looks cool.
If he did that, that's totally cool. And if he didn't do that and it's just paint, that's like fucking amazing. So, good job with that. Let's see. So base and smoke, yeah. For the big weapon, I think some edge highlighting with metal, especially on the top, would be good to sort of make that stand out more for both of those. Maybe I'll save things that he can do better for after we give the metal. Oh, one other thing. One of my things that I make jokes about is tufts.
Oh, yeah.
Because I will paint like amazing miniature, and I'll put it on the table and I'll show it to my friends, and they're like, "Whoa, he did grass! The grass is so cool!" So it's like if you put a tuft on a miniature, for people who sort of enjoy miniatures casually, like that's the most amazing thing. So great job on the tufts. He has good tufts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach is also all about tufts. More tufts, more tufts. Yeah.
More tufts.
Right. You don't have to do too much tufts, but a couple tufts.
Yeah.
I can't remember whose turn it is. I think it's maybe your turn, Devin.
So for the actual ranking, I'm putting this at a low to mid silver. I think the main reason why I would keep it towards maybe a low silver is especially the base, and that there just isn't as much variation and attention to detail on it, along with the smoke, same kind of critique on that. And I think that there are a couple other elements like what you said, Michael, with the blades, and even parts of like the smoke canisters could use a little bit of extra highlighting to drive more focus to the face. But I would put it more in the mid silver because you have pretty good color composition, and I really like the blending in your skin.
Yeah, I agree. The skin is, I would give gold to the skin, right? That's the best part of the piece, I think. But the other parts maybe are not quite gold level yet. Yeah. And that's really, this is like a kind of a prototypical silver for Kublacon. That's kind of my goal for the Kublacon competition, is that, you know, a neat, cool looking tabletop gaming piece should get probably a silver in a Kublacon competition.
Yeah,
so,
I think this achieves it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
good job, Super. Oh, yeah. So go for it.
An interesting thing you can do with the skin to make it pop even more is to actually shade with a red color, a dark red. Like if you would just glaze in some dark reds in the crevices, mostly towards the bottom, not on the top, because the muscles at the top, you're not going to get a lot of shading because the light is hitting it the strongest. But along the sides and the bottom, if you glaze in like a dark red, even mix some green and red together so it's a little bit brownish, it'll make the green pop even more. So there's a little bit of a color composition thing going on there where they're opposites on the color wheel. And so if you put opposites next to each other, it makes both of them pop even more. So if you add a little bit of red into your shading, it'll make the green even brighter.
Yeah, that's a great tip, actually. Nice color theory there. Good job, Super Slug, with your silver.
Nice job. I like that one.
All right, this is Soups. Well, this is Dante, painted by Soups. Yeah, he's in He's in chat right now. He's very active. So
He asked me to make him cry.
yeah, I
So
guess.
I'm gonna make him cry.
Okay. I wish I could see that.
You'll need to post in the Discord
Yeah.
for proof.
A picture of himself crying. Dante
Okay.
is Dante also in Blood Angels? I assume so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I don't know anything. I mean, like, he's got red on him, so I assume so.
Yeah, and the little teardrop, blood teardrop, whatever. So my first thing that I see is I love the minimal palette. You really have like this kind of desaturated gold, this relatively primary red, and a little bit of white accent. And this, I think, is a really good showcase that you don't need to have a shitload of colors. You can achieve really cool and interesting things with a pretty minimal palette. And as a matter of fact, minimally speaking, you can probably achieve a lot more than you would with like an explosion of color on particular pieces. I really like this kind of like soft, matte, almost NMM kind of armor sheen to everything. I love the blade of the axe. It's really good. It's very soft, very subtle. It doesn't need a whole lot of attention to itself because it's pretty far away from the face. But as we move away from the face, it's interesting to look at. And that's what we always want to try to achieve. When you look at the end of the barrel, it's interesting to look at because there's those little bits of blue with that kind of like non-metallic kind of bluing of the metal and stuff. It's interesting. One of the biggest attractors is the base. It's pretty monotone. I would like to see a little bit more oomph, a little bit more flavor. Soups, you got to watch the tactical rocks. That's what we did. But I love the blending. I think you even have the scroll work on the freehand. It's fantastic. And I think it's a pretty well composed piece overall. But you got to glamify your tactical rocks, man.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I have a couple. I want to make fun of the sculpt a little bit, but maybe I'll wait till the end to do that. I agree with the base. It's, I mean, with what Devin said about the base. I think the pillar should probably be like, like a cream color or like a light brown to cream type of a thing, like a pillar would be. Or you could do different colors. The red helmet in the middle of the base takes a lot of attention. It's really grabbing my attention and bringing it down into the base. So yeah, think about like your really bright colors and where you're placing them. So you kind of have a nice triangle here with the blade, and then the like the headband, and then his like loincloth. So it's often nice to have like a triangle or three pieces like that are all the same color, that are bright. That's really nice. Yeah, the metals look pretty good. I would do a little bit more shading on the white, but it doesn't really look bad. It's just maybe
Looks a little flat.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell really. Yeah, have we made him cry yet? I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
He can take it.
As for the sculpt, two things. The thing on his shoulder reminds me of the digital alarm clock in Groundhog Day.
Oh.
Remember, every day it would like
Yes.
shift to 6 o'clock. So I think you should paint in like 0600 into those like slots in there. It would be perfect, I think. Sorry, I'm not. I'm just making fun of GW stuff.
Sure.
And then it's
That's
clear he's
allowed.
wearing huaraches. He's totally wearing huaraches. You should paint his toes the same color as his flesh. I guess no flesh is showing. And then paint his nails.
Oh my
Look at those
gosh.
toes. He's totally wearing sandals. So yeah, I guess he could be wearing boots that are in the shape of sandals. But anyway.
Yeah, he's got a third weapon. It's La Chancla. Could throw it at his enemy.
That's right.
I didn't even notice that. That would be so gross to paint them like toes. Do it, Soups. Do
That's
it.
just a weird sculpt choice, I think.
Yeah.
But generally, I think this is really good. I think silver too for this, but I think with just a little bit of work at it, it could get to gold.
Yep. I put it at the high silver,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the main thing that would put it back into a gold category is that red helmet. It's too distracting, and then more color variation and tonalities in the base, I think would really help set it apart and put more focus back on the upper half of the model, like the face and stuff.
Right. In terms of the value, which is the light and dark, the brightness and darkness, the base is too bright. Base should be darker. So yeah, Devin's class on that was really great. So you could definitely check that out.
Yeah. You guys should go check it out if you missed it. A few months back, Devin and I glamified some tactical rocks, and yeah, that'll help out with your bases. Thanks, Soups. This is great.
Yes, good job.
All right, Vino's turn. Vino's another mod for us. Also make him cry. He's in chat. This is his Bellacore.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta say I love the base. It's fun. I love the like streams of blood running down the steps.
When you have a base that big, you gotta put some effort into it, and that's one of the things that I really like about this piece is that he's put a decent amount of effort into the base because it's so big. You're gonna go and see it. Okay. So,
I would say some photography feedback. Try not to put this against a distracting background.
Right.
So
There's so much going on.
Right, because he's got a cool sword with detail. He's got all this jewelry. Like, I'm distracted by like the water, whatever's going on in the background that kind of detracts from it. But that has nothing to do with your model, Vino.
It's hard to see the difference between the sword and the background.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yes, if you had a little more of a neutral background, things would pop a little bit more, and we could be able to kind of have a little bit more separation. One of the first things that strikes me is, man, it's a lot of detail. Yeah, I think you did a good job with the base. I think that it's a good thing that you didn't overlook it. It's such an intricate and interesting base that it deserves a lot of love and attention. I really like just that kind of monotone, muted palette you have going on everywhere. I like that it gets gradually lighter across his torso and then up into his face. I think the golds are a little flat. I think they could use a little bit more recessed shading as well as some highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I would like to see that kind of champagne, or not champagne, so that wine red included more on the upper portion of the figure. So you see a lot of it at the bottom of his loincloth, and then it's just gone. So I'd like to see maybe some of the trinkets are painted that way, or maybe this Chaos Star has like a recessed fill of that same color.
Yeah. That's
and that would drive a lot of attention straight up to his face, or maybe his eyes even.
Right. Yes, I agree. There's the gold, and then there's the kind of whitish, like on his leg there, sort of armor. So anyway, I think the gold looks pretty good. Maybe you could do a little bit, like a little bit more edge highlighting. If you're doing metallics, you can highlight the edges with a lighter color gold. That's something you could do. Sometimes I even put some silver spots in places, even for gold, because there are times when gold is going to just be totally white, just on the edges and where the hot spot is hitting. Yeah, I think it's kind of similar where you need a lot more attention towards the face. You have a lot going on the head there. And so it would be interesting maybe to brighten the face and bring in some red. I think that's a really good idea. And then also I might like darken the edges of the horns and then have them get brighter and brighter as they get towards the center so that it brings the focus right towards the face like that.
I agree.
Something like that, because you can kind of, it's a complicated sculpt and it gives you a lot to work with. So you can use those things and always think about ways to bring attention to, especially the face or other places in the model that you want people to like look at. There's a kind of a thing when we look at a piece of art where if the artist is really good, they'll kind of control like where you look from spot to spot. And so we can definitely do that here. Like I might make the chains at the top a little bit darker with just some highlights. And then as they go down, I don't know, maybe that's not true. I'm not sure about that advice. The chains look really good and the skulls all look really good. So just sort of think about where you want the viewer to like look at first, and then second and third, and then sort of use your color and your light to create that for us. It's really good, I think. I agree with everything that Devin said about the base, and the skirt is really cool. Yeah, I really like Devin's idea of bringing that red up into his like, I don't know, on his chest there. I don't know if it's a scar or. Sorry, I don't know a lot about GW stuff. Yeah, but nice job, I think. I think it's Devin's turn to go first.
I go back and forth with this for the rankings. This would be one of those ones that I would definitely kind of converse with my fellow judges.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of really good things that are well executed going on. But then there are also some things that just need a little bit of improvement. So I would definitely lean into probably the low to mid silver. This is a very ambitious piece because it's so big and there's a lot going on. And unfortunately, there's a lot going on. You gotta, render it. You have to do it justice. But I would probably put it more towards the low silver.
I'm losing you there.
Yeah, he'll come back. What do you think,
Okay.
Michael?
I think I would go high silver. And I think that the stuff that needs more work is kind of, I agree, it's kind of a low silver. But I think he has some things that bring it up. So the sword, I think, I didn't say anything about it before, but the sword is really cool. The choice of the teal there and the gold is a really interesting choice. It might be interesting to bring those colors in other places, like maybe some teal in the wings would be interesting, and some teal around his face. It's a little bit, for me, the biggest problem is the monochrome sort of flat aspect of his torso and body. But it's clear that he knows how to do those things with the sword. The chains all look really good. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure how the guy flies with chains like that, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's just for. I'm just making fun of CW stuff again. But I think they look cool, and the skulls all look really good. So also, I think that he should get a little credit for the complexity of the piece, right? Like you're saying, it's really complex, and I think that a well-painted piece, if it's large, should get a little bit more credit, especially at the journeyman level. So, yeah.
All right.
I think probably it would end up with a silver, and I would say high silver, and Devin would say low silver.
Good job with your silver, Vino. You got silver. Nice. Sorry we had to flicker through some of the images. I realized I left one out, and that is Saul. So Saul is our last Journeyman entry before we skip on over to Masters.
Okay.
But yeah, he added this one last night, snuck it in.
Oh, snuck it in. Let's look at it.
Must be
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Very cool Beast Claw Raider, another GW, so I'm sure Michael will have some feedback for the sculpt. But he said that he won the Voter's Choice at an event he submitted this to. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's fun. There's a lot of color.
Yeah.
Yeah, these sculpts that GW has been putting out, especially for this particular line of the trolls, or I forget what they're are pretty complex, and there's a lot going on with all of the sculpts and stuff. I think Saul, you've done a really good job of kind of keeping that kind of cold focus with all of those kind of like blues and blue grays, and then with the blue skin as well. Kind of centralized towards the top of the piece, which is where everyone's going to kind of want to look at. I really like the attention to detail and the highlighting of his, I don't know if those are natural tusks or iron tusks. I don't know what they are, but they look really cool. Really good, sharp highlights. I like the consistency throughout. Awesome rocks, by the way. I can tell you got a lot of fun, interesting colors in the bases and stuff like that.
Love a good rock.
I love a good rock. The one thing I would say is I think that the leather strappings need work. They need a little bit more love and attention. I can see the areas where you either understand the best / have the most fun with, where it's on the actual rider, the tusk horn things, the rocks and stuff. But it almost looks as though you just need a little bit more of that same kind of love going on with the actual straps for the kind of the blackish gray leather. So adding in extra highlights, adding in really actually scratch the highlight thing because it's highlighted. I think it needs darker shadows.
Yeah, that was my big thing. The whole thing needs darker shadows.
Yeah, just needs darker shadows, especially as you get towards the bottom of the figure, towards the underside where it's going to naturally cast its own shadow. Just lean into that and go dark. It's okay. You can always brighten it back up if it doesn't look quite right in certain areas, but getting that extra little bit of darkness can give you an immediate sense of contrast, and it will make it show even better.
Yeah.
More contrast.
Even on the horns, there's these sort of it's not really a plane because it's 3-dimensional. So it's a volume really, but some glazes of a darker color in there would make it even cooler. I think it does look really great now, but introducing some other colors, like in the pits or on the top just before the edge, that would be a place where you can add more shading, but also more color. You can use some different colors to shade in there. One thing I noticed in sort of the main image here is that you did really well highlighting his face. It's definitely highlighted. The thing is that you have to think about light, but you also think about saturation of color. So there are certain things, right? There are certain things that draw the eye, and one of them is brighter light, but also saturated color. And so his chest and torso of the rider, I'm talking about the rider right now, is a more saturated blue, right? And so that kind of draws the attention a little bit also away from the face. Might just be the photo. I really like that you used the purple on the face, and I can see that you highlighted the hair in a good way also. It's cohesive, makes sense. But the face is a little bit, you could put more contrast in the face in terms of color and shadows to bring more attention to the face.
Sure.
You hear, we're almost always talking about the face. I would also darken the weird sculpting he has, on his belly, because that's maybe the brightest point. I don't know, maybe the face is brighter than that, but it should be darker, I think, so that you get to look at the face a little more.
The
beast
skull is
really
certainly
cool.
more saturated.
Uh-huh. The skull?
Yeah, the skull is definitely a little bit more saturated, so it tends to command a little bit more attention.
Uh-huh. Right. I guess it depends on the view too.
Mhm.
I really like the eyes on the beast and the mouth. That's really good. Yeah, I really think just some shading sort of all over would be really great. Even the face can be shaded more, but it's really nice. I like it. It's cool. Crazy headpiece for the beast.
Yeah, it's quite intense. So if I were judging this, I'd probably put it at a mid silver. I think that you can see the execution is pretty well done. All of your highlighting is relatively crisp. You've got some pretty decent blends. I do think that the actual dirt in the base holds it back a little bit. I think it just needs a little bit more shading. And then overall, everything just needs a little bit darker darks for the most part. One little tip when trying to increase the value and focal point like of the face, you don't just keep adding white. You can add like an ivory or like a lemon yellow or something like that, and you can still get brighter blues without losing that saturation. And that's something that can really, really help.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sort of the fur that's underneath the head, and that should definitely be darker than the fur that's on the top of the head. Right. Sort of think about things like that in terms of shading. Yeah, I agree. Probably silver. It seems like we're always giving silver. If you ever, I'm on this channel too, so if you ever want to DM me a picture or, ping me on a thread or something, I'll be happy to give some advice about, ways to improve also.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Cool.
Silver, I agree.
All right. Good job, Saul. Congrats on your silver.
Yes, good job.
All right. We're moving into the Masters category. There are 3 entries that we have for this. Anything that we want to, and we are going to go a little over time, fam. We started a little late, plus it's my show, so I can do whatever I want. But we're gonna finish the Masters category before signing off. So any call outs you want to make about the Masters specifically, or should we just move on into it?
So let's see, technical skill, difficulty, creativity, presentation, and workmanship. Workmanship is kind of a given, right? There shouldn't, in a master's category, you shouldn't have mold lines. You shouldn't have like problems with the sculpt. Very often in a master's category, there might be problems with the sculpt and people will just fix them with green stuff or, whatever. So yeah, presentation is hugely important in terms of the story. So in a master's entry, the story should be really obvious, and there should be a story, even if it's like a bust. It should sort of have some kind of ambiance that's like recognizable. Like we should be able to tell what kind of lighting they're in, what kind of environment they're in, all these kinds of things. Creativity is huge, right? You can see the different things that we're looking for there. Just so you know, the rubric that we have here is made to be used in the judging. So there's not like place to really leave notes or anything, or there's no explanation. It's assumed that the judge understands what all these things are, and we're just kind of it's just kind of a way to remind us, what we're looking for. So when we're discussing something, we can kind of refer to this. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
One last thing with we didn't happen to give any golds in the Journeyman. It's even more so with Masters.
Yeah.
With Masters, getting a gold is a big deal. So whenever someone judges a Masters grade competition, they're very stingy with the gold. You truly have to earn it.
Okay, good to know. Nick, member for 12 months. Thanks, Nick, for your free super chat. Give it to me. 33 hours of work. Looking forward to this. All right. Well, let's see. First up is a totally new name to our server. This is Edom. And joined our server, I don't know if it was early this morning or last night, and just dumped a bunch of work for us to take a look at. So I was like, oh, great. So welcome to the community. Glad to have you. Enjoy
welcome.
the critique. Yeah, we talked about this one a little bit. We weren't sure if this should go Journeyman or Masters, and we thought, let's just throw it into Masters and see how it does.
Okay.
Another really ambitious sculpt. I mean, these are not small miniatures. These are not small. So anytime I'm looking at something, especially of this size, unfortunately, it gets it calls a lot of attention to itself. Well, fortunately and unfortunately. The unfortunate part is that I now look at every single thing I can to make sure that, hey, did you even miss a spot? Did you make sure that you have this, lighting correct, or this, OSL effect is going, and hitting everywhere that it needs to go. And it falls under quite a bit more scrutiny. So when, people are trying to, maybe earn a specific medal or trying to go for gold or whatever, they might shrink down their figure so that they can very well execute that actual piece and stuff. I really love this minimal palette. The fact that you've got these really fun, interesting greens for the OSL that's just kind of peeking around, and then it's on his his glaive. I think that's really cool, along with that desaturated purple for like the little extra cloth details. It's really good color composition. I think I really like the NMM that you have going on pretty much all throughout. It looks as though, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It looks as though it's kind of like a coppery kind of bronze for his shoulder pads. And I think that's really good because it gives you a different distinction, rendering the metals and the materials in different ways. Whereas, the armor plating for the dragon is more, maybe more like a brass kind of color. So that's kind of cool. You have different metals and different distinctions, along with a little bit of, kind of more desaturated golds and such. I love the placements of the light. One kind of problem that I have with the lighting is that not on the main brazier, but on the other side, there's like a little mushroom thing that's casting light. I feel like as though it's casting the same level of light as the actual fire brazier, and I think it needs to not be touching the wing as much as it is. This is the right side of the model.
It's a magic mushroom, dude.
It is a magic.
You don't know how much glow a magic mushroom has?
That's true. That's true. I'm just looking at proximity,
Yeah.
But so that would be one thing that I would have a little bit of a problem with. I think you have the skill for this from what it's looking like. I would like to see a little bit more, a little less straight lines with your NMM. I would like to see a little bit, things as the plates kind of segment and they get wider. I'd like to see those straight lines become, kind of go with the actual segmented plates. They come wider just to obey that, that geometry a little bit more. But I think it's really, really well done. It's really cool. I'd also love to see a little bit more color variation and different colors within the wings. Because currently it just looks, with the exception of the kind of OSL, it just looks a little flat of a white, especially in comparison to the rest of the body.
Right. I agree with the wings. There's some texture in the wings that you can see in some photos that is really nice, and it's unclear to me if it almost looks like it's just a single coat. So a little bit working with the texture a little bit more would be good. It's good. I don't know. just looking at one wing, it's really nice because it's brighter at the top and then it gets darker at the bottom, and then you have the OSL. So like the overall is nice. The lighting is nice. I think that some areas are quite good, and then other areas need more work. So I like the NMM on, especially on the dragon's neck. I think Devin makes a good point about how, because the piece of metal is larger, the highlight is also going to get larger. But in general, it really sells as metal. It literally looks like metal to me, so that's really great. Same thing about the face. The face is not really grabbing my attention at all, the face of the rider. So you need to do something about that. Like if you kind of zoom out and you look at the whole figure, the wings are really bright, and then there's the brazier at the bottom that's really high contrast and really bright. Then the mushrooms. And you really kind of lose the rider actually, and the face of the rider in general.
Yeah.
So a lot more.
The beard loses like kind of blends with the gorget of the armor a little bit, so you kind of lose that separation of those elements.
Right. Yeah, I feel like maybe you spent more time on the dragon than on the rider. I think the rider needs as much love as the dragon has. For the brazier, for the green light, I like the effect is cool. What I mean to say is the color choice is really great. Like Devin said, you have good color composition happening there. I think you need more contrast in the flame itself, so it should be brighter at the bottom and darker at the top, and maybe some places where it's darker, like in the I don't know, to make it look more smoky and more. I don't know, realistic, I guess is the term. Just because it's looks a little bit like maybe it was airbrushed or just blended from yellow to sort of a bluish green, but there should be more color variations and light variations within the flame itself.
I agree.
This would definitely let's see. The thing about Masters is that everything needs to. This is kind of what Devin was saying. It's another way to say what he said already, but everything needs to be brought to the highest level. And so when you have a really big figure, that's really hard to do everything at the highest level. But for example, the sort of the whiskers or hair on the dragon's side of the face doesn't look like it got a lot of attention. So that kind of brings it down a little bit. I would say that this is a really cool paint job, and it's really good. And for Masters, it would probably be bronze for me.
I would put it at a bronze as well.
But notice that it's not certificate, right? So, yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's a really beautiful paint job.
Awesome. Edom.
It is.
Congrats
it really
on
is.
your Masters bronze. Okay, we have 2 left. Next is Molecule.
That was a lot, right? That was a long time. We're going.
Yeah. All right.
We're going deep. Okay.
This is Molecule, and this is his Cow Mountain. This is a Lumineth model, another GW.
Enormous GW piece.
Yeah, it's big. And Molecule had been working on this for a really long time. We got to see so many nice updates over this past year. And he was working on it in Hobby Hang with us. So it was really cool for us to get to see this come to life in our server. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's ready in chat with tissues. So.
So it's been really cool seeing this develop and getting to see the actual finished product. It's really cool. Also, excellent job on your photography, especially on something like this. it makes all the difference. Whereas if you're in an in-person thing, you don't have to worry about the photography because we're actually going to pick up the model and see it ourselves. I love the base. It's so fun with that little extra little bit of, there's a creek running through and he's jumping over and stuff. It's really cool. It adds a lot of this to the story. And one thing that really sticks out to me is the fact that you have this kind of moss buildup in the mountain, and it's also in the hammer and in the rocks down below. So I love seeing that kind of go all throughout the entire piece. And then you have that kind of green echoed in all of the little gems that you've done. So it's really cool. You have a really good kind of color harmony all throughout the entire piece. I love the golds. I am not a fan of metallic paints because they're so much harder to work with at a higher level. And I think you've done a really good job of executing them so that, you have a good focal point throughout. And it could just be the angle of the image. But I feel as though that the face isn't quite as bright as it might need to be, especially when it's competing with all of that saturated kind of powdery blue. That's a little bit of a kind of a tall order to kind of compete with all of that blue, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I loved all of the extra filigree that you have kind of detailed in there. It's all very homogeneous with all the gold trim and gold details. I feel as though that the white tabards and the white little, I don't know, purity seal thingies or whatever, I think they need a little bit more love. You obviously have the skill to be able to do it. So I would like to see something going on more than just like a mid-grade a white. I'd like to see more freehand, some little elements that just add to the kind of story, whether it's maybe his clan symbol or something along those lines. The last thing is this is just kind of my personal take on this, but I think the red tassels need a lot more love. I think that they're highlighted, but I think that they could have definitely been highlighted a little bit more to accentuate the motion that this piece is currently in. Because he's leaping, have a little bit more motion towards the face. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, this is really beautiful. Yeah, and great work with the real metallics, like Devin said. I think it's nice. The gems are really well done. I'm sorry I was spaced out slightly because what I did was I took the image. If everyone wants to go to the intense critique request thread, I took the image, and at the very bottom of the chat now you can see I took the image and I dialed down the saturation. So it's just what's called a value study, where, like I said before, it's just take all the color out and it's just lights and darks. And so maybe I should have set up my camera so we could look at it there. But if you want to look at it, the brightest point is actually his leg.
It's his knee.
Yeah. And so the face kind of gets lost. So same thing, right? It's always about the face. So maybe I'm going straight into critique, but I guess he wants to cry slightly hard. So everything that Devin said about what was beautiful is really beautiful. I really like the blues. I like the filigree. Yeah. All that stuff is great. I really love the base. I love the stream going through, because you have the sort of the white caps of the stream that kind of have this circular shape, which I don't know, somehow like accentuates the figure instead of drawing away focus from the figure. Yeah, so it's really nice. So my big critique is those tassels should be much brighter and much more saturated. So you can use those to draw attention to the face. Like, think about things around the face that you can use to bring attention to the face. So the tassels could be brighter. It looks like he has like stone around him on his shoulders and behind his head.
Yeah,
So
he's
all of
Cow
that
Mountain.
can be well, first of all, it's top of the figure, right? So it's going to get more light. It looks like his chest and his knee have the most light, whereas probably that stuff is going to have a lot of light too. So what I would do is I would make the top of the peak above his head like sort of a mid bright, and then kind of get slightly brighter as you get closer to his head. So like the brightness sort of brings the eye towards the head. Um, yeah. The metal on the horns is really great, and actually he did really well with the lighting on the horns. Do you see how the horns are brighter in the middle and darker on the ends? But then we have these like tips that are pointing back towards the head, so that's really a great touch, I think. It's rough. It's hard to do metallics in a way that's in this situation with the head. I guess it's a helmet because it's metal, right? I would just say make the the shading looks good, but maybe do less shading and more highlighting on the head.
Agreed.
It's going to get a lot of light because that's at the very top, and also you want the brightness to be there. Maybe do the eyes in a different color. You could do like the same red color as the tassels. If you bring the red up a lot, you can bring the tassels. You can bring the red into that, and maybe it's kind of a tough part of the sculpt, but this is really beautiful, I would say.
How do we want to rank
Masters,
it? Yeah.
in Masters, I would give this a silver.
I would give this a strong mid to high silver. I think it shows really, really well. I would be really interested in looking at this piece kind of more in person so that you can kind of explore a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, given those really soft and subtle things, like with the tassels, with the the mountain, and then the perspective of that the chest and the leg and knee are just incrementally brighter than the face, that detracts away from the actual face and stuff. And that's those are the types of things that we look at, and the types of things that we judge. So yeah, I would put that as a mid to strong silver.
Congrats on your Master Silver molecule. Thank you for submitting. Glad we got to tear it to pieces. I hope you did cry a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to cry, I can be meaner if you want. Please also saying this is my opinion as far as the the judging, gold, silver, bronze, whatever. Doesn't mean that if you bring this to Kublacon, you're going to get a silver. It depends on the other judges who are there, and also what else is present. So it might go up or down depending on the show and the judges and everybody's opinions. So it's just one person's opinion. Two people's opinions. So don't send me an angry email if you take it somewhere and get a gold and like, what the fuck? Why didn't Michael give me a gold?
Yeah, this is the Hobby Collab Awards.
Yeah, you can send me the angry email. That's fine. I don't read my email.
All right.
Actually, I don't. Yeah, you can send it if you want to. It'll be entertaining. Yeah.
All right, our last entry into Masters. This is from Nick Garcia, also in chat and ready to cry. He sent us that super chat earlier. And he took this piece to Old Town Throwdown. That was the event Zach and I went to last weekend. And it was auctioned off as a charity piece. So somebody else owns this. Nick, remind us, like, do you know who won? And like, what did they pay for it? What was the final bid? I'm so curious.
That's super cool.
Yeah. What a cool piece to have in your collection. I wonder if they're going to like just keep it as a display piece, or if they're like, okay, I'm going to play with it. And, some of these, like, I'd just be so afraid to touch it, to touch it so many times.
Yeah, it's definitely one that you want to pick up by the base.
Okay, so it went home with Brian B. I don't know who that is, for $625. Nice.
Nice.
Dang. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's super cool. What's with everybody doing really, really giant GW pieces? These are huge.
I know. I love my Nagash. Yeah, I had so much fun painting it.
They're cool. It's just, man,
Yeah.
you guys really tried to, you guys swung for the fences. That's for sure.
Seriously.
That's right.
I like that you built up the base for away from just like a standard flat base. The fact that he's elevated on something, and then you put all those different candles in there. It just, that's the type of stuff that we really like to look for, is a little bit more story. There's something else going on than it's just a nice model put on a base. So I think that your instincts with kind of building up the base to tell a little bit of a story is good instincts on that front. I really love the relatively minimal palette going on with Nagash himself. I love the red glowing eyes. It kind of coincides with the sword, which coincides with the base as well. And then kind of coupled with being next to all of that gold and that kind of teal green, it really helps stand out those eyes. And so then I also really like the sword, the fact that you have these like kind of little starlight kind of bursts of light, kind of like along that medial ridge of that sword. It's really it's interesting to look at. It's not just, oh, it's got some flames to it. Oh, there's things going on, and there's kind of a story in motion to be told. On the actual base itself, I really like the work that you did with the candles. I think it's really interesting. I love seeing the kind of OSL going throughout that bridge, going up into those little skulls, and even into the little pavers on the actual base. One couple points of contestment that I have on the actual base itself is that you're having these candle lights, which is a relatively small and soft light, casting a very large glow on what's something that I'm assuming those spirits would be glowing as well. So if unless that's maybe his, I don't know, his tentacles or something along those lines, the impression that I'm getting at it from over the overall piece is that those are spirits, and those might have some type of ethereal glow. They would be far more powerful than just the candles. So having the candles emit that kind of glow at the base of those kind of spectral glows, it doesn't quite make sense to me. I understand where you're going with. I think that if you go at the very base, I think it works pretty okay. I do think that instead of it being red, needs to be a little bit leaning more towards that orange yellow instead of just red. But this is a fantasy, and he's a skeleton king man, so we'll kind of go with that. Then the last thing, because this is something that I'm very picky with. Meg can kind of attest. We talked a little bit about her piece at Kublacon, where everything needs to be finished. So if you look at the very bottom of the base, left-hand side of the photo, zoomed in, you can see where the base was built up, and you can see the separation between the actual plastic base and then the stuff that built up. There's a significant lip. It wasn't sanded flush. It wasn't sanded flat. Along with a little bit of texture paint spillover on the base, we want to see that clean rim, especially if it's on something like a decorative plinth for display. Those are the types of things that we definitely look at. And yes, Meg, we look at the back. So we always want to make sure we have everything, at a level. So I like to often give advice, like whether it's my students or just somebody asking for advice, is that I would much rather see a consistent 7 all throughout, if you're looking at it on a scale of 1 to 10, than to see a couple of 10s and then a couple of 5s throughout, where some elements just aren't quite up to that same level. We want to see that consistency all throughout. And with this piece, I definitely see some highs, but I also see some lows that would definitely detract it from, scoring particularly high for me. But I think some of the cool things that I really like about it is I think it's a really cool and interesting color composition that I think you did a really good job with.
Clearly, yeah. I mean, $650. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure whoever has it loves it. Yeah, I agree with everything that Devin said. A couple other things about the light. So you have that pile of skulls in the center of the base. Probably there's going to be more with the brightness of the candles. You're going to see more of that orangey red with the skulls because they're so close. I get it that maybe they're blocked a little bit from the candle light because of the little wall there, but probably there'd still be some more. In terms of the OSL, this is kind of an advanced tip. I was telling Devin this too the other day. I'm not great at OSL, but I know that OSL sort of the brightness falls off exponentially. Mm-hmm. So the further away, it gets dark very fast. So I think that this is kind of what Devin was saying also about the red on the bottom that's getting the light from the candles. I think that it's going to be much brighter towards the candles and much darker above that. In general, I think the sort of the bottom part should be darker, except for where the angry spirits are. And maybe you could choose some places where it's brighter than others, but in general, I think it's better if it's darker, and then that'll help with the whole overall sort of composition. One thing that's a little bit distracting to me is the sort of, I guess it's like a spine sort of decoration that is on his front that goes right up his, I see, it's between his legs. So that's really bright. That's really highlighted quite bright, actually brighter than his face. So I think that part should be toned down a bit and darkened. So I would like darken the blue on the bottom, especially towards the bottom, and then sort of darken, that thing hanging between his legs there. And his
bone.
Kind of, Also, I think the face needs more attention too. It's like everything around the face kind of grabs attention more than the face does. But I do like the eyes. The eyes are cool. That does bring attention to the face. So kind of keep going with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We always want to see a bit of a flow where things kind of flow from the base going up towards your focal point, and having things flow from different directions, to drive the attention and the focus to where we're naturally going to look at it, which is typically, like Michael said, the weapons, the face, or maybe something that they're holding, because that's tends to be very important.
Right. But this is amazing. Beautiful job.
Yeah, really well done. I like it.
The sword is also very cool. For me, this would be silver in masters, but maybe towards bronze. But I'd say probably a low silver for me.
So this would be another contestant for me. I would put it at a high bronze, low silver. Okay. And the thing that kind of edges it out for me is the integration between what he has built up on the base and the base itself. There's this kind of line that kind of waves around it and such.
Right.
And then coupled with the fact that there are just some some little odd placements of lighting here and there or highlighting here and there. I think that it just could certainly be a hell of a lot stronger as we're flowing up towards the actual face, because that's where I tend to kind of get a little lost.
Right. I would agree with that. I think you're probably right. It's probably more of a bronze.
But fantastic work. And I saw that Nick put a 360 in the Discord, and it definitely gives it a little bit more justice looking at it in a full 360 degree kind of turnaround video. It's excellent work.
So, and he also mentioned that after taking these photos, he had cleaned up the bridge, the piece that was sticking out like that. So
cool. Yeah, awesome.
That's great. Okay, so sorry, we're saying silver or bronze for this one?
I think we decided bronze.
All right.
Bronze.
Congrats on your master's bronze from the hobby collab during this critique. Oh my gosh. So that was fun and intense. I hope you guys got a lot out of that. Even if your piece wasn't being judged, you can
Right.
still learn vicariously, based on our judges' feedback. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's been a long stream. Thank you both for being here. This is so helpful.
No problem.
So nice, and for giving up your time on this Sunday morning to walk us through so many cool concepts and what to look out for next time you guys compete. Sure. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, and I just want to do whatever I can to, encourage people to paint and to, stretch themselves and get better, and whatever I can do, I'm happy to collaborate with them.
I hope, to kind of echo that, I hope we have kind of maybe softened the blow a little bit with how, kind of these competitions kind of go. If you are at all curious in doing something like this, try it. Just try it. Paint for you. Try it, because that, growth happens out the outside of our comfort zone. And I mean, I'm uncomfortable every time I do it, but every time I do it, I always get something really interesting and valuable, whether it's feedback or even with just meeting a new friend. It's awesome. It's a really great way for you to grow and learn and kind of share as part of your community. And if you find out that it's not for you, great, you tried it. That's okay.
Awesome. Really quickly before I close this out, I wanted to remind everybody, we have this coming up for our mandrels. We have an OSL workshop and demo hosted by Timbit. So if you're a mandrel, you can attend that. It is next Sunday at 12:15 p.m. right after our hobby stream. So check that out. Mandrels, thank you so much for your support always. Thank you everybody for being here to hang out. And learn along with us. Thank you for sticking around for the longer stream. Really appreciate our guests joining us today as well. So with that, I'm going to say be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and always be creating. Bye.